It's time for another special edition of the Fall Classic Sports Talk Live as the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers meet in the World Series. Tonight's broadcast is a Northern Lights Entertainment production. Here are your hosts, Glenn and Eric.
All right, welcome everyone to the special edition Giant Sports Talk Live. We are now a Fall Classic Sports Talk Live here for the next week or so. Should be fun. We're going to get into the World Series preview between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. We got a couple of special guests joining us. We're streaming both here on Giant Sports Talk Live and on Marty Lurie and Friends Talking Ball. Marty Lurie joining us talks about some baseball. Lou Marston also joining the ruckus here, so it should be a lot of fun. Let's get straight into it. Marty, Fall Classic is upon us. Here we go. Game one's going to start in about 2 hours.
Yeah, a special time to get into the World Series. And I stress to everybody every year, it is a series. It's not the World Season. It's the World Series. And it is 7 games, but it is a series, so you never know what can happen. You win a game here or there, everything looks differently. And like the other series before it, the 5-game and 3-game series and the 7-game series, just win a game. So we'll see what happens. For 2 teams to get this far, they've got to be solid teams. The Dodgers are overwhelmingly big favorites here. They took 2 out of 3 from Toronto during the season. The one game they lost, they had a 3-1 lead in the 8th inning, and Toronto came back with 2 in the 8th to beat them, 5-4, and that was on the Dodger bullpen. So I'm sure that'll be a theme we'll talk about. But it is the World Series. It's a special, special time. Throw out all those records that they've been bombarding us with for the last few weeks of playoff this and playoff that. It doesn't matter. It's what you do now. This is where the heroes are made and people will remember them. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great series. I really do.
Looking forward to it. Glenn, you told me a couple of days ago, we'll get right into it. Toronto Blue Jays have announced that they're going to start the rookie, Trey Savage. He only had 3 starts on the season, had a mixed bag of postseason. He had some amazing accomplishments against the Yankees, and then he kind of stunk it up a little bit. What was that against? I can't remember who he stunk it up against. Who was it? What team was it that Seattle? And they gave him a nod for the first game. What do you think, Glenn?
Well, you got my text. I mean, have truer words ever been spoken? I should have been a scout. I told everybody all season he was on my fantasy team, and I know Lou loves to talk fantasy, so I'll throw that out there at Lou. But I'm telling you, Eric, I'm telling you, the Blue Jays are kind of a gutsy team. I mean, they hit well. The thing about the Blue Jays, and I think you can attest to this doing the show with me every night, Eric, is the people of the Bay Area, I don't think they know very much about the Toronto Blue Jays, let alone Trey Savage. But they're going to know Vladimir Guerrero. He's on fire, 6 home runs. He's batting .442 this postseason. And I think to beat the LA Dodgers, something you and I talked about in the green room before the show, Eric, it's what I call my pick to click. If the Blue Jays want to win this series, they've got to get to the Dodgers starting pitching early in games. They've got to wear them out. They got to get to that bullpen, and you got to get what you got from the regular season Jays. You got to get contact, get them on, get them over, get them in, and then they can put a little thumping on this Dodger team. I think it all hinges on getting to the LA Dodger bullpen, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, Lou, you've spoken about this on the show a couple of times. National League Baseball, that's kind of what the Toronto Blue Jays do, right? They're kind of like a throwback to old National League Baseball where you're just making that contact and you're manufacturing runs. And then, let's see what happens. What do you think, Lou?
Yeah, just putting the ball in play, make the defense respond. This sort of reminds me of the Tigers and the Giants. If you remember, the Tigers came in, they have the pitching. Oh, my God, we're going against the Cy Young, sort of how Toronto's going against Snell, and we all know what happened there. I'm just hoping Toronto can bring the momentum after a very emotional win Can they do it? Can the Dodgers respond? And normally I don't really think, because Marty brings up a great point. It's a 7-game series. But with this situation, I believe game 1 is very, very important for Toronto. I think if they can maybe dent the armor of the pitching of the Dodgers, can maybe somehow get game 1, I think we're going to have a series. I still think we're going to have a series. I'm probably thinking 6 games. I'd love for Toronto, especially someone new, to beat them. But, the Dodgers play the regular season to get ready for the playoffs. They start the regular playoffs to get ready for the World Series. And I'm excited. I think, especially now with the gambling aspect of what happened in NBA, it's a time for the major leagues to shine, be the front of it, show them why baseball is so great. And I'm hoping we get to see just an amazing, amazing series, no matter how it
nice. Toby makes a good point. Kind of going to allude to what I'm going to get into here. Jays are built to beat the Dodgers kryptonite. Get to that bullpen. Don't strike out and put the ball in play. Kind of what you were saying, Glenn. And Marty, I mean, you're saying, hey, this is a series now. You throw all the regular season stuff out. This is where every game means something. And, one of the weaknesses that the Dodgers have had has been that bullpen. And I'll tell you, they really didn't have to rely on it during this whole postseason, for the simple fact the starters were just it's kind of throwback. The Dave Roberts is letting their guys go 7 to 9 innings every time, and it's going to be difficult. Do you still think that the key for the Toronto Blue Jays is to get into that bullpen of the Dodgers?
Well, I think so, but the bullpen of the Dodgers is better. It's gotten better. I mean, Banda's thrown well. There's no Vesia. He's got a personal family matter, so wish him well. But they've got Banda, they've got Dreyer. Trinan is the one. But they're trying to stay, away from him as much as possible. They're using Sheehan. They put Will Klein on this roster, and we saw him against the Giants. Will Klein can bring it. He can throw pretty hard. So the bullpen with Sasaki, it's not that bad. I know it was awful. I know it's been awful for many, many times. But in this playoff, it hasn't been that bad. Against Cincinnati, it was pretty loose. But since then, they've tightened it up a lot. And a lot is because the starters go so deep. They don't need that many outs from the bullpen. But the other thing is, guys, and get your thoughts about it, the layoff. I mean, the Dodgers haven't played for a week. The Blue Jays are a team that they, as Lou says and Glenn said, they fight. They don't strike out. They put the ball in play, and that's very important. They got the hottest hitter on the planet right now in Guerrero. They're going to have to set the table for him ahead of that. But what about the layoff? We've seen this in the playoffs so many times and talked about it so many times. A team comes in and hasn't played for a week, and Lou, you think tonight's a big game. Well, Snell will probably give you what he gives you. He seems like he always does. But maybe that Dodger hitting will not be what it's supposed to be. And if Trey Savage, or Savage, whatever his name is, can keep the ball down and throw that splitter, let's face it, you get Enrique Hernandez, you get Edman, you get Pages at the end of the order. If the first guys don't do it, there's that sort of that jump down where you get to that end of the order, which the Blue Jays don't really have. Seattle had it. You got past Eugenio Suarez, and man, you were golden, and that's how they won that series. The Dodgers at the end, you got to keep those guys down, and we'll see if Savage can do it. But I want to get your thoughts on the layoff, if you guys think it'll matter.
Yeah, Glenn, go for it. What do you think? The Dodgers have had, a whole week off, I think? If not something like that. I mean, it's a long time off. The Giants were able to take advantage of it in 2012 when they played the Detroit Tigers. They had that huge layoff, and the Giants kept playing because it was 2012 throughout the entire playoffs was nothing but torture. And with the game, it's built on repetition, and the Giants stayed fresh. Do you think it could be an issue for the Dodgers, specifically with the hitting?
Well, Lou was talking about 2012 there, and the Giants taking on the Detroit Tigers. The difference between that and tonight is that the Dodgers have the pitching, and they got a hell of a lot more hitting than the Detroit Tigers did that year, in my opinion. This is a very patient, yet in some respects aggressive Dodger hitting team. I mean, this is one of the concerns I have for the Jays, and I'll be cheering them on being a proud Canadian, Eric, and I'm a big Giant fan, but I got to cheer on the Jays. I got the gear on today, getting ready for the game, got the wings cooking and fresh Pepsi ready. I'm fired up. But what I said earlier about getting to the Dodger bullpen, my concern is that the Dodgers get to the Toronto bullpen because it is inconsistent. We saw how bad it performed. What was it in game 5 or 6? Six. A poor managerial decision. I told you what I thought of the fans in Canada are still today over at the water cooler, Eric. They're talking about that. The Jays have to get a flawless World Series from the management. The manager's he's got to pull the right strings. They got to get the pitching. They got to do what they did during the year, just get the ball in play, like Marty said. And that's what they were good at. I think they took a couple of games from the Mariners doing that, too. When they put the ball in play, it forced the hand of there was a couple of errors during an inning. The Jays got some runs. So when you get the ball in play, but I think as much as Toronto getting to that Dodger bullpen could be a plus, I think the Dodgers getting to the Jays bullpen could also be a plus. But I wouldn't expect anything less from the Dodgers hitting than what we know they have.
What do you think, Lou? You think that time?
Let me say this. You're thinking again to that Dodger starters. I mean, it's 7 games. You think you're going to get to them every game? You know, if you can get to them once, who are you going to get to? Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Ohtani. It's hard to say. Let's get to him every night. It's going to be hard to do that. But the Dodger outfield defense, not great.
No.
What you said, Glenn, and I just want to expand on a little bit. The lefties out of the Toronto pen, critical. You need lefties to beat the Dodgers. I've said this all year long. You need lefties to beat the Dodgers. Yeah. And you got to be able to, mitigate Ohtani. You got to deal with Freddie Freeman and stuff like that. You have to be able to do it. But the big thing for me is Toronto's defense, infield defense, was terrific against Vitello. Now, they turned a lot of double plays. And let's face it, J.P. Crawford, they might as well just give him the ball and the bat and let him hit the ground ball to short. That's about all he could do, and they turned him every time. But Dante Bichette is at second base. This is like Mickey Stanley in 1968, who never played shortstop. He was a center fielder for the Tigers. They got to the World Series, and they wanted to get Al Kaline back in the lineup. They said, Mickey Stanley, you play short. And they put him shortstop, and he was great. He was fabulous. And Detroit won the World Series against the Cardinals. They're putting Dante Bichette at second. He's never played second in his major league career. And he's going to be playing second base here for Toronto, if I read everything correctly. Yep. And Jimenez, I guess, still stays at short. Is a very underrated player. I like him a lot.
I remember him in Cleveland. Good glove.
I can't talk for Eric and Lou, but I missed that. What was it, 58? I missed that World Series.
68.
I wasn't even around.
68.
68, not even 68. All right. You're a kid. 68, I remember quite well. But my point is this. The Toronto defense, the infield defense was fabulous. It is going to be tested with Bichette. And plus, they got Bichette hitting cleanup, too. And he hasn't played here, in 6 weeks. That's going to be something to watch. Can he just walk in and be a factor in the series?
It's going to be fun.
Luke, doesn't that kind of go to what Marty said earlier about the Dodger layoff? I was thinking about that earlier today, Marty. I was thinking, you got Bo Bichette coming in. Do they expect him to come in and he's just lightning in a bottle? He's going to be hitting as good as Guerrero? I mean, is he going to be stale? I think there's a lot of pressure on Bo Bichette going into that game. Obviously, the addition of Bichette is going to be huge for the Jays, but I don't know what kind of hitting they're going to get from him.
Yeah. What do you get? What Bo Bichette are you getting here, truthfully? Which is a roll of the dice. The manager, he loves the intentional walk. And I'll give me an over-under on how many times they intentionally walk Ohtani in the series. 10? How about 10 times?
Yeah,
he could be lethal in that Rogers Center. I'm telling you.
I tell you,
Johnny, 10 intentional walks maybe in the series.
it could happen.
Why not?
It could very well happen. And I'm going to get to this because Lou, talking about the layoff at the Dodgers, if it has an effect, there's one guy in that lineup that really didn't show up except for the last game of the CS, and that was Shohei Ohtani. The guy didn't do anything. Everything was in one game, and boy, it was a hell of a game. There's no doubt about it. Lou, do you have any concerns about the Dodgers as far as their hitting? Now, their pitching is going to be fabulous. Look, they could benefit from the rest, but the hitting, what do you think? You think
I actually think personally, you can only ask starting pitching to go so far. I know they were great against Milwaukee, but you got to remember, Milwaukee's best player was 1 for 19 in the series. I think Milwaukee last series was happy to be there. I don't think any of the studs responded. Nobody showed up. I mean, Yelich 1 for 19, and it was a really bad 1 for 19. He always seemed to come up with runners in second and third. He did the usual grounder. He did the Jung-Hoo Lee grounder to second. Wasn't even, the usual. It was so bad, Milwaukee. First of all, we know how great the Dodgers pitching is, but I think it's different when you go to the World Series. They're going to be on the road in a ballpark the ball is going to be flying. It's going to be rocking. I just thought this is a lot better lineup. And these are also one thing about Toronto we don't talk about is beside being 8 or 9 deep is they'll take the walk. They'll bunt the guy over. They'll put the pressure on the Dodgers. We all talk about how great, some of Toronto's defense is. I think some of the problems is the Dodgers' overall defense. And I think if you can make contact, put the pressure on the Dodgers defense, that's the way Toronto's going to get the step. Other big thing with those, it's a wild card. People don't realize how great he was hitting before he went out. He was number 1 or number 2 in almost every offensive category. Toronto got here without him. If he can be 75 to maybe 80%, that's what could take Toronto over. Now, again, it might be a disaster, but, he could have played last series. They wanted to make sure he was at least 85% for the World Series. So I think it's a key thing. I'm more worried about his defense and stuff like that. His offense, when you're a great hitter, it's going to take time. I remember one of Marty's favorite players, Roy Hobbs, when he played off an injury. It just took a while to get back going. But I think overall, the thing is, Snell's been fantastic. Yamamoto been fantastic. Ohtani was fantastic. But you can't get that every game. These guys are human. You know what I mean? I mean, Snell, unbelievable. But it's a lot different team, Toronto, than what he did against Milwaukee or Cincinnati. And the Dodgers, they knew they had Milwaukee. After Milwaukee couldn't get that game won, you knew the series was over. Their big thing was they wanted to get Philly, knock them out. They knew they'd take care of Milwaukee. Now they're facing a team that doesn't strike out a lot, that makes you really earn. When you're a pitcher, it's a lot different, like when you go against the Giants where they're striking out constantly and they have a reputation. Toronto doesn't have that. They're going to spray the ball wherever they are. And, I'm expecting high scoring games. I don't think it's going to be like Milwaukee 3-1, 4-2. I think it's going to be a lot of action. And that goes both ways, and I think most importantly is Marty brings up a great point. I think defensively for the Dodgers, since they haven't played in a while, you can only do so many inter-squad games. Let's talk about Snell. Snell hasn't pitched, it's 11 days since his last game he pitched. When you're a starting pitcher, it's all about repetition. Now he's coming in and going to be a rock and plays. And I think the key thing, especially for Toronto, especially these first 2 games, got to score early. Don't let these pitchers relax and get in a routine, because a lot of these guys take a while to get going, the first and second innings. I think it's key for Toronto if they're going to have any success.
And I'll tell you what, one thing with the Toronto Blue Jays do, they work counts. They make the pitcher work, and that's what you need to do. Marty, I want to ask you a question. There's 2 players on each team that are not superstars, but they take care of business. On the Toronto side, you got Lucas and you got Barger. Guys you really never even heard of at all throughout the regular season. I mean, if being here on the West Coast, we don't hear a whole lot what's going on there in Toronto. And then over here with the Dodgers, you got the two Hernandezes, Teoscar and Kike. Man, those guys, wow. Do you want to talk about when the lights shine the brightest? Those guys step up. What do you think about these guys that you may not, they don't technically cash the checks, but they seem to show up when the stakes are the highest?
Well, you see it in every World Series. Every World Series has that guy, the Blake Doyle or whoever it was for the Red Sox. You see this. This is part of the World Series that someone comes out of nowhere to have this great World Series. I will say this. You brought up two names, which, Lou, this goes to what you said about tonight and playing in Toronto. You got Kike Hernandez in left, and you got Teoscar Hernandez in right. They stink. You start hitting the ball in the gap with those guys or down the line with those guys, you've got extra bases happening. And the key is putting this ball in play and not striking out. Striking out, we know what it does. We saw what it did to the Giants all year long. Critical situations, you don't put the ball in play, nothing can happen. If you don't strike out, you put the ball in play. You can move a guy from second to third. You can put a guy in motion and stay out of a double play. You can do a million things. And that's one thing that Toronto does with these no-name guys. Then I'm going to call Lucas and Barger no-name guys. It's like 72 Dolphins and no-name defense that ended up winning every game. I don't know who they are. If they walked in the room, I couldn't tell you who they are right now. And I've watched the whole playoff. That's what we're dealing with. Ernie Clement is another one.
Yes.
So, the ability to put the ball in play is important. Now, I'll say this to Lou, and I've posed this question before. Can you get to all these pitchers? Snell can walk the park. Snell is a guy who can walk the park, and he could drive you nuts. He could be bases loaded in the first inning, 3-2 on the sixth hitter, and they'll strike him out, and he'll walk away. Or he can walk in a run. I think anything can happen with Snell tonight. I really think tonight is a huge game. Number one, the layoff, and number two, Snell is the kind of guy who can walk the park. Yamamoto has gotten hit before. We've seen it. We've seen him get hit before. The Giants knocked the heck out of him early in the season. If I'm not mistaken, I thought didn't Cincinnati get to him at some point?
I think so, yeah. Yep.
And Glasnow is another guy who can walk the park. Anything can happen with him. Ohtani generally will give you a solid start. He's that good. So to take Lou's point a little bit further, the Dodger pitching is terrific, and they did beat a Milwaukee team that was overwhelmed. And in the playoffs, all of a sudden you get overwhelmed and they steamroll you. And it looks like you'll never get a hit, and sometimes that happens. But this Dodger pitching staff, it's not the 54 Cleveland Indians. How about, were you alive for that one, Glenn? No. But, we're not talking about Mike Garcia and Bob Lemon and Early Wynn and people like that,
Oh, I got all the baseball cards, though. I have a background.
I'll throw these things out. It makes me feel better, So, but the point is, the Dodger pitching, you can get to it. It's not impossible. And Toronto's a team, just hit the ball in the gap. And, other than Pages in center field with the great arm, you start hitting the ball in the gap, and all of a sudden you can get one or two runs and get ahead of them. But the big question is Toronto's pitching. And that's the big deal. Splitter crazy. They're all right. The kid tonight, overhand splitter. We've never really seen too much of that. He's been terrific. Gausman, splitter. If you lay off the splitter, remember the Giants were afraid to sign him because everyone started laying off the splitter at the end of the year, and they hit him. The Giants got cold feet and let him go. So with Gausman, if it's low, let it go. Things can happen with him, but he's been terrific. And then really, where do you go after that? Shane Bieber? So the Toronto pitching, I think, is the Achilles heel. Yeah. I think everything else about Toronto, the infield defense with Bichette, maybe they'll get away with it. But the Toronto overall pitching staff, I think, really becomes the Achilles heel of the series, in my opinion.
That's a great point. And, it's funny how you talk about that splitter. If I'm not mistaken, don't the Dodgers, they defend against the splitter pretty well? Because I know they gave Logan Webb fits, because he would throw his changeup. Lincecum.
They'll lay off. But this kid has that overhand.
Yes.
And let's see how they handle it. Let's see. That's part of why this will be a great game tonight.
Doesn't he remind you a little bit of Justin Verlander, the way his delivery is? He doesn't have the big leg kick, but that over the top, like you're talking about, it's amazing watching him pitch. Because if he could command the ball, it's going to be something. I'm really looking forward to that. Let's get into this, because this was an issue throughout the postseason. Managers, who do we think is going to be the best manager? Is it going to be Dave Roberts, or is it going to be John Schneider? Both of them had, well, not necessarily Dave Roberts, because he just let his guys go. But John Schneider, you kind of alluded to it in the beginning, Glenn, made some questionable calls. Are they going to have the quick hook? Are they going to let these guys just because you get a guy on, are you going to go out there and yank him in the fifth inning when he really isn't in any kind of trouble? So, Loon, let me ask you this. Who do you give the edge to as far as managing the game on both clubs?
Well, one guy was there last year and the other one wasn't. So I think he's walked the plank before, and I think it's a huge advantage. I think sometimes it's not really the managers, it's the situation of the series. You got to remember, when it's game 7, there's no tomorrow. You got to do whatever it takes. When it's a 5-game or a 3-game series, you got to somehow get the W. And, I think these guys are both class acts. I think, they're going to do what they have to do, but it also depends on the situation and, what game of the series. You got to remember, I think the big concern we're not talking about, we have a young kid. Maybe he doesn't know how big this game is in Toronto, where he's got everybody on his back telling him this kid's amazing. He's going to do good. We've seen young guys go in and veterans in the World Series and they just lay an egg. We just don't know. But I think the big advantage is, can Toronto really bring the momentum off a very emotional win where the Dodgers have done it before? It's a big thing. I think the one thing we're not really talking about is how many guys from Toronto even have World Series experience. Coaches, players, the works. Where the Dodgers, they've been there before. Everybody talks about the Dodgers, 2021. They have done it. That's what makes the Dodgers the cream of the crop. No one's been able to knock them out. And they've done it before. So I think really Toronto, we got to make sure they're not like a deer in the headlight. They're going to be so caught up in the motion. And you have a young pitcher here where I think really the first couple innings is going to be huge for him. Dodgers aren't going to beat themselves. Toronto's going to have to create opportunities to beat the Dodgers. And I think that's a big key, especially when you've never done it before. We're just not sure what Toronto's going to do because this is the biggest game of these guys' lives. And until you've done it, you can talk a good game, but until you've done it, you have no clue. You have no way how it's going to be.
Glenn?
Except for, Springer. I don't know who's played for Toronto in a World Series. So I think that's important.
Glenn, again, you were alluding to John Schneider, and all the Toronto fans were ready to burn him in effigy because of the move that when he went to Brendan Little in Game 6. But who do you give the edge to? You give it to Dave Roberts, John Schneider? What do you think?
To be honest, Derek, I don't even know how to answer that question. I think we just got to see how it unfolds. I mean, we could break this down for a month of Sundays and come up with a different, is it going to go 7 games? Is it going to go 6, like Lou said? Is somebody wins 4-1? I don't think this year in particular, I have any idea how this could unfold. I really don't. But I'd like to give up my airtime, and I'd like to ask Marty a question that has to do a little bit. We were talking about pitching, and Lou just said, do they go to the bullpen early? Marty, I still am, but I grew up watching ball in the mid to late 70s and the 80s, and I just loved it. I had a passion for it. And I've said it to Eric and Lou and Dan over on NorCal many times. I said, I think I appreciated it more because I waited for the box score in the newspaper, and it wasn't just, instant gratification. Well, what's the score? There it is. I got to ask you, how did we get to this point where pitchers are going 2 innings, not giving up a hit in a postseason game, or even and we're seeing it in the regular season, these bullpen games, and the manager's coming out with the hook? How did we get here, Marty?
Yeah, well, we got here through analytics. And the fact that pitching staffs now have 12 or 13 or 14 pitchers, depending on the time of year, that throw 98 to 100. And you're better off bringing in 98 in the 7th inning and bringing another 98 in the 8th inning and do that. So I think we got here because of the matchup information and all the statistical information that we have that says pitch this guy against this guy this way. And plus, when a manager goes to the bullpen now, he's not bringing in, a washed up starter who's 37 years old, who's hanging on. This isn't Grover Cleveland Alexander sleeping in the bullpen, seriously, in 1926, and then bringing him in to face Tony Lazzeri. It's not like that. It's a different game today. It's a game of specialists. Now, this is the important part, and Lou brought this up, and you guys have been talking about it, and we haven't touched on it yet completely. I learned this from Joe Torre. You must win today's game. And Bruce Bochy did this to a T. You must win today's game, which means if the A's are playing the Yankees in Game 7 and Pettit's getting knocked out in the 4th inning, Stanton's coming in the 4th inning, and the Yankees are going to win that game against the A's and knock them out in 2000. And Joe Torre showed me that. Bochy did it completely. You must win today's game, which means if you've got to go to the bullpen in the 5th inning and you got to bring in your guy in the 5th inning to get you out of that 5th inning, you bring him in. You don't worry about tomorrow. I like Schneider, the way he manages. And he's going to have to do this because, see, he's got guys who aren't going to go 7. He's going to get in those critical situations the 3rd time through, which is, the big red flag in baseball today. And he's going to have to go to that bullpen. And this is the big test for him. And he'll do it, too. Believe me, he's got Mattingly next to him. This is the first World Series ever for Don Mattingly, which is a big deal to everybody. And he's got people helping him, but he's going to make moves all game long. Dave Roberts does not have to do that because Dave Roberts has guys like the old days where you can stick with them for a while and you don't have to make that move. You don't have to yank Yamamoto in the 5th inning if he gets in trouble. You can stay with him to the 6th or even the 7th inning. Savage gets in trouble in the 5th inning, he's gone. It's over. So what's going to be fascinating about this World Series is the Toronto manager because he's going to make moves like crazy, and let's see if they play out. But that's the difference for me is you must win today's game. I don't care what it takes. You must win today, and then we'll worry about tomorrow. That's the way you win a World Series.
Eric, you and I are a bit of a traditionalist, if you will. We talked about it on our show. I don't think Major League Baseball has helped itself with a lot of these moves. Why do they have to break with such a beautiful game and along the lines of pitching? I don't like that. Who is baseball to dictate to me as a manager that he's got to pitch to 3 batters? Got to pitch to 3 batters. I mean, I just like old school baseball.
I know it's a time of the game and the commercials and the stoppage of the game and people changing channels and all that. We got caught in that. That's what happened.
Exactly. It's all about the TV money. That's exactly what it is. And it's I mean, we could debate that from here until.
Don't you think Schneider has to make a million moves here?
100%. And that's that's what's going to be fun is because it's going to be totally 2 different game plans for each manager. Yeah. You're saying it, right? Dave Roberts, he can rely on his guys as long as it doesn't get too out of control. But John Schneider, he's going to have to – there's going to be a carousel of moves, and it's going to be interesting to see when he does it because, when you can kind of get around the 3-hitter minimum, if you bring them in with just get one out finish the inning, and then you can bring in another guy, and then depending on what he does. So it's going to be interesting. He's going to be mixed matching quite often. And again, to Marty's point, this is it, man. This is it. It's 7 games if it goes 7, and then the season is over. You're either the champion or you're the runner-up. So it's all hands on deck, so to speak. So you got to go out there and you got to go win your game, man. And the manager is, again, it's got the focus, the spotlight is going to be on him. And whether it's going to be good or bad, we'll find out how that's going to happen. But this is what makes the dramatic of the World Series so special, just to see how each team is going to navigate and outsmart each other, because both lineups they both got they both could do damage a little bit differently with the Toronto and the Dodgers, but damage nonetheless. So it's going to be fun to watch. I tell you what, how about we start? We're 36 minutes in here. Let's get into the big news, since we're finishing off with managers in the World Series. Big news for the Giants.
Eric, you just want to do one quick thing of predictions?
Let's do that to wrap up
the series, and then we can talk about the Giants situation.
You want to do that now? We could do that at the very end. How about that?
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'll do that at the very end. No, it's all good. And that's a good gut. Yeah, that'd be fun to do. Giants made big news a couple of days ago. They announced Tony Vitello, former Tennessee coach or manager, I should say, was there for quite a while, had some success, won the College World Series in 2024. It was a guy, we've talked about this on your show, Marty. This is a guy that no one was really talking about so much. I mean, he was kind of floated around there. We all had our ideas on who we think where the Giants should go. Marty, you haven't really been able to weigh in on YouTube. Let's hear what you have to say about the San Francisco Giants hire.
Well, let's see. Well, this is it. Let's see what he brings to the table. And look, as I said, if they're 30-15, it's going to be a lot of fun. If they're 22-37, it's not going to be a lot of fun. He talks about playing with fire and, within, the strength and blah, 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 and all these words. What does that mean? Give me the last team that played like that. You want to go back to the 34 Gas House gang who didn't wash their uniforms, and they slid into third base, as Dizzy Dean would say. So look, it's fun. Who are his coaches and who are his players? And this whole Drew Gilbert thing, come on. He hasn't done anything yet. He stinks. No. He can't do anything. He can run around. He can bite your shoulder. He can jump over the rail. You want 25 guys? Is that where we're going? So I say this, look, if he's enthusiastic, there have been great college coaches. This has never happened before. If he's enthusiastic, wonderful. If he stresses fundamentals, terrific. If Devers is 5 for 45 and he gets in his face, tells him to start hustling, or hey, get out here for more batting practice and all that, and Devers looks at him, it'll be something else. So who knows? Right. But I will tell you this, the Giants will be a story.
Yes.
They will be a story. So look, if Buster wants to do this and they want to pay him, more power to them. The key is going to be who his bench coach will be, who his other coaches will be, and who the closer will be, and who the new outfielder is going to be, and who's going to play second base, and all that kind of stuff. And that'll tell the tale of Tony Vitello, of who he is. But hey, the Giants will be a story, and they need much more than him. Mm-hmm. He's just beginning. All right, so they got him instead of Brandon Hyde or instead of Nick Hundley or somebody else. Big deal. If he wants to take a picture sliding into all the players after they win a series and he wants to slide on a slippery slope, let him do it. I don't care if he wants to jump in the stands and hug, Greg Johnson, let him do it. But I want to see him manage a game. And I want to see him do the things we're talking about when it comes to you better win the game right now in the major leagues in the 5th inning or in the 6th inning and have to make the decision. Do I bring in Randy Rodriguez in the 6th inning or do I leave him until the 8th inning?
Right.
And when do I go to him? And we'll see who he is. So it's fun. It's baseball. It gives us something to talk about. It's the Giants, and they have a manager, and let's see what he does. So what can I say?
There you go.
I picked him, but in 150 years of baseball, it's never happened before. Maybe this is, as Glenn says, the beginning of a new world for us.
Yeah, and it's funny because this has never been, you touched on it. It's never been done in the history of baseball where they've hired a college manager who has no MLB experience whatsoever to come and manage a big club. And look, there's
a manager. Do they call him or do they still call him a coach?
No, I don't even, honestly,
coach. That they should call him coach to make him feel at home.
There you go. And it's funny because it's a couple of things here. There's a lot of successful managers in the college ranks, and none of them ever made the transition. I don't know what makes this one different than any of the others, and here's the thing, right? He's going to have to learn how to manage men now because he's been managing kids, right? 18 to 22-year-olds is kind of like the wheelhouse of his experience in managing. We could say men. I mean, they're 18 years old, so young men. Now he's going to have to go out there and have to manage a major league clubhouse. That's going to, and I think you alluded to it, Marty. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to give us plenty of fodder to talk about.
Yeah. Every big decision, we have it every night.
Yes,
Lou, you guys, Glenn, you guys talk about it every single night. Handling the bullpen, making that pinch hitting change. Should the guy have scored? And all this stuff, I mean, it's fascinating. It's not 30 or 40 games. It's 162 games.
Correct.
Of second guessing every single night. So
yes.
it's going to be fun. Someone said he should go down the Coca-Cola slide. All right.
Where did I miss that? I got to find it.
Bernie Brewer, they'll put him in the slide. Let him go down. But seriously, it's running a major league game. I have enough trouble running a Stratomatic game, let alone a major league game. Honestly, if you play Stratomatic, you know what it is. Should I put in a lefty to face a lefty or right? Stratomatic is the best way to tell if you can handle a major league game.
and Lou, we haven't heard Lou. Glenn, I'll get to you here in a minute. Lou, we haven't heard your observations and your thoughts about Tony Vitello.
Well, it's in two parts. One is we have a guy now that's a cheerleader, which is fine, but you got to remember he's coming from the SEC where he had NIL money. He could pick who's playing, and basically it was his rule or the highway. Sorry, that's how it was in college, and they're called head coaches, not managers. In college, just so we can be on the same page. It's a big difference. I actually called I'm pretty good friends with Chip Hale, who actually was an assistant coach with Philly, and now he's back at U of A and everything. And he's glad he got out because with the NIL, there's a lot of pressure. You have boosters. But Glenn brought this up the other night. The college season is literally 60 games. The major leagues is 162. I think this guy might be great for the first 6 weeks, sort of like how the Giants were this year. Everything was going good. But how is he going to be in the dog days of summer? How is he going to be where he's dealing with a lot of egos? Where before it was his word, but now, you get guys that are making $30 million. This guy's never done it before. Are they going to look down on him? Second of all, one of the things me, Eric, and Glenn have spoken about, I hope he understands Spanish because I thought one of the biggest problems with Melvin is those guys didn't respect him, right? Where in our seats, you would see the main players were speaking Spanish the whole time on the left side. Melvin was by himself on the right side. Now you got a very young guy who a lot of times might be only 10, 15 years older than some of these guys. He's going to have to get respect. And again, long season where maybe he was on the top of the road, where he was from. Now he's with the Giants. He's not going to be the best team. He's probably going to be maybe the third or fourth best team in the NL West, not overall in the National League. And you're going from being the king to now being somebody. Yeah, it's the San Francisco Giants. It's a great opportunity, but until he does it, I think Marty brings up a good point. It's going to be very, very tough. I think Buster basically said, what am I going to do? I'm glad he at least did something. I was sort of disappointed to know that this guy was from Salinas at one time. I'm glad at least he went outside of the Giants box because it hasn't been working for the last 10 years, but I think it's exciting now, but this guy's not selling tickets. Do you think maybe, oh my God, we got Tony, the Giants sold another 1,000 season tickets? No. And this is part two. It all depends what happens with the Giants free agent class. They got to spend the money, because if all we hear about is we got a new manager and, we talked about it, Drew Gilbert's still our starting right fielder, then I think Buster is going to be known as a horrible president of operations. He was a great player, but boy, he fell on his face when it came to major decisions, because he's doing something that nobody else has done. And if you remember, a lot of his decisions, let's take Devers' trade out of there, where really it was about the contract. He was the one that said, no, we got to keep our third baseman. Let's give him a no sign clause. Let's sign him for 6 years. He's the one that got Adames. I know he was a Willie Mack award, but my God, I want a guy that at least can almost hit his weight, 230. He's also, we got a problem on our team where we got so many more holes to bring somebody new in. It's going to be a long learning adjustment. And I just hope, I want the Giants to be over 500. Rob goes good for the first 6 weeks. That's fine, but it's got to work for 6 months. And I think it's a major key. I think it's a major thing out there that we just don't know. And I'm going to give him the chance, but I don't want this to be next year at this time. Oh, we gave Buster a year. Let's give him another year. Well, we got to give Tony another year. He's never done it. We keep coming up with the same excuse every year. I want Buster to do what he said. The fans deserve a team in the playoffs. Okay, well, here's your opportunity. You got a manager and you got a free agent that's going to be now your number 2 class. Show me, Buster. If not, then you know what? Buster should step down and get somebody that can. Being a season ticket holder, I want results. 1 year you get a mulligan, no more.
And to your point, Lou, real quick, as a San Francisco Giants fan, over the last few years, it's kind of been in flux between new managers, new Pobos, middling playoff or middling baseball play. You're sitting right around 500 most of the time. So we want to see something there. When are we gonna get over the hump, so to speak, and start getting into some winning baseball? Now, Glenn, it's been a while since we talked about Tony Vitello. Have you changed at all, or are you kind of feeling the same way?
The only problem with today's show, Eric, when you bring the illustrious Marty Lurie and you bring Mr. Mr. Salty Lou into the show, I can throw out all my notes. They already talked about everything I wanted to say. So I got to tell you, Eric, what they have said, I kind of got to echo it. This is a guy who's not going to be – he's coaching. That's a key word. At college level, he's coaching. And I know our chat, we talked about it the other day. You and I did the breaking news story. Eric went on for a couple of hours talking about the big announcement. And I couldn't believe it. Am I the only guy who doesn't watch college baseball faithfully every night on the TV? Because everybody was like, they know everything about him. He was Luke, can I steal your term? He was this week. He was the flavor of the week. Once his name's out there in the Bay Area stuff grows legs. So everybody, Vitello's the best. Why? Oh, he's just the best. Well, he's not coaching anymore. He's managing a game, Eric. At college, he's coaching and developing. And when I sit and see some of the guys in the chat and around, around town talking about the move and saying that, he's going to be good for the development, our draft. And that's they're upstairs doing that. That's not his job. He's there to manage the team, pull the right strings, hopefully he is allowed to set the lineup. I don't want any more of this. I don't know who's setting the lineup. I don't want to conspiracy theorist or anything, but let's see if he can manage the team, make the right bullpen moves, as Marty Lurie said earlier. And I think that's it in a nutshell. Another thing, Eric, that we brought up the other day, and I've seen it talked about, and people kind of just, hey, he's got to surround himself with, major league caliber coaches. So my question is, Buster Posey, why didn't you hire a major league caliber manager and put guys like Vitello underneath to groom. You're not developing your manager that way. Well, why would you surround it? I thought you're supposed to put the best guy in the position. Why do you have to surround him with long-term veteran managers? I don't get it, Eric, and coaches. I don't get it. It's either going to work or it ain't going to work.
It seems to be the consensus. The consensus is it's going to be great or it's going to be a dumpster fire.
It's going to take more than a year to figure this out.
He's got to have the horses, too. You can only best managers have the horses.
That's why I say, who's the closer? You tell me who the closer is. I'll tell you if you got a good manager or not. You give me a good bullpen, I'll tell you. Tony La Russa said it. You show me a horse crap bullpen, and I'll show you a horse bad manager. And then La Russa said this, and it's been true the whole time. Show me, as you said, show me what he's got. Dan, we love Dan. Of course, Dan says he's excited about this. He's a great communicator. Terrific. So half his job is communicating with the media. Let's see how the media handles this when things start going wrong, if they have the nerve to get into it with him. But Dan points out that Casey Schmidt says he's stoked. Well, Casey,
of course he is
stoked, because if he wants to play second base, what's he going to say? Geez, I don't know about that. Nice seeing you, Casey. We'll see you in Sacramento, in March.
Right, because
and get real with this kind of stuff. You can't quote a baseball player. You can't quote a baseball player and his opinion on anything, because he just wants to get paid, and especially a young player, just wants to be part of the team. So you guys hit it. We'll see. Let's see who the coaches are. If you gave him Dave Righetti and Ron Wolf, and you gave him people like that, you put them in the dugout with him. Now we got a different story.
Marty, do you think he brings his own guys with him?
I was just going to ask that. Good question.
I don't think so. I mean, we've gone through this already with the no-name coaching staff, and I think we saw where that has gotten the team. And I'd say you probably want to have veteran coaches in there with him. Now, the nature of the game today, Glenn, like you point out, it's different. The Pat Burrells, and then you have 6 guys you've never heard of before as the assistant hitting coach. And so who knows where that's going to go. But I would say bench coach-wise, it will be a name. The bench coach, and I hope it's not Joyce Tingler or Jace Tingler, whatever his name was.
Oh, the former manager of San Diego.
Yeah, he got run out of there, but he knew him in Missouri. So maybe Brandon Hyde. I guess that's the name that comes up all the time. But needs a veteran bench coach who can help run the bullpen, because that's the name of a major league game today. Is running that, but you don't win without knowing how to run the bullpen.
Eric, I think it's a gutsy move.
Oh, it is 100%.
Because of how quick they were to jump on me when I say no experience. He's got no. I hope he already knows that you'll be kicked out of the game. You'll be kicked out of the game if you send a player up with an aluminum bat. I hope he knows that you can't hit with the aluminum bat, Eric.
Glenn, what can he do that would make the Giants better? Now let's forget about getting the closer and all these other players. What can he bring to the table that's going to make a San Francisco Giant team better?
I don't know. And I said to Eric, and I asked the chat the day it was announced, I said, right now, today, are the Giants any better with him or without him? I don't think they're any better.
What does he bring? If you're Posey and you interview him, and he says, I play with passion, and I'll get the most out of players. What does all that mean? What does he bring the first day, the 5th day, the 20th day? What does he bring to the table?
I can't answer that, but I am looking forward next Thursday to finding out why Buster Posey thinks he was the man for the job. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, but it'll all be headline. Buster Posey in headlines, but Buster Posey does not talk in specifics. He talks in headlines. Yes. He talks in playing better defense, better concentration, better this, better that.
I didn't see any of that last year.
But he talks that's the way he talks.
That's how he talks. Exactly.
I want to hear what the manager's got to say. What do you? If I'm there as a media person, I say to him, Tony, tell me, what do you bring to the major league table that makes you different as a major league manager? And let him answer that question.
That's an honest question to ask him, right? What is it that you bring to the table? And everyone's saying.
I want Dan to answer that question.
Oh, you want Dan answer the question? What does Tony Vitello bring to the San Francisco Giants?
Right, and don't give me headlines. Give me something specific.
Right.
Exactly. I like to tease Dan. You know that.
Yeah, I know.
Dan does say, what is the downside of the move? The downside is we keep going through this and more managerial.
Downside is, they play worse than 500 baseball. And, honestly, the worst case scenario is you lose the clubhouse. Because one thing that was said by the players with Bob Melvin, he never lost the clubhouse. The front office, by all intents and purposes, is they lost confidence in Bob Melvin for whatever reason. We haven't heard, but he had the clubhouse. He did not lose the clubhouse. The worst case scenario is he loses. But to answer your question, Marty, that's a great. I mean, what does he bring other than enthusiasm and energy? But we've talked about it, right? What is that?
What's the last team that won with enthusiasm and energy without players?
You need talent. You got to have the talent.
Yeah. And I asked Rick Smith. They said the 2004 Red Sox, maybe they won taking shots of scotch before the game, and maybe that's why they won. But
it's let's talk about this too, because Tony had incredible success at Tennessee. There's no doubting that. But it's different because as a manager, you're also a salesman. All you got to do is sell a 18-year-old kid who's in a high school on the beauty of Tennessee baseball and what we can bring to you as far as your experience in Tennessee. You can't do that in the major leagues. These guys are men who are getting paid millions of dollars, who are at the top of their game. This is the major leagues. This is I don't know how many times away from deviation from the mean, I should say, in talent.
You're recruiting. You're taking kids to Knoxville to watch 104,000 people cheer Tennessee playing Georgia, and afterwards on Saturday night you're taking them to the the AE5 house for a party with 1 million people. That's college.
That's college.
That's what you're selling.
So here's what Dan says: he brings intensity, analytics. And by all intents and purposes, Buster loved in 21. Even though Kapler was a weird dude, his teams were well prepared, and Buster saw how that helped them win. But we've been saying this for even Dan said this. The reason why they had so much success in 2021 was because of Buster Posey, not necessarily because of Kapler. Everybody have said that.
What do you mean he brings analytics? What is that?
I don't know what that means.
They don't have analytics?
Yes, of course they do. Every major league club has analytics.
I think they have analytics already. So intensity, that's what he's bringing, intensity. All right, so we'll all be tense every day.
Eric, I just want to talk about the 21 season. It was the worst thing ever happened to the Giants. I don't care about the wins. It was a mirage. You had 5 guys that had career years. It was sort of the end of the old Giants regime. I never want to experience 2021 again. We didn't win a series. Yeah, we had the best record, but that was a mirage. Let's forget about that. Let's forget about 21. That's why at least we're taking steps, because I'm sick and tired of us talking about the 10, 12, 14 Giants. That's different baseball. That's 10 years ago. My God, we got to move forward. All we kept doing is we take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Oh, well, we got 3 in 5 years. I don't care about that anymore. I want new stuff. I think, Marty, the biggest problem I had with this playoff is we weren't part of it. This baseball playoff has been phenomenal. As I use the Giants logo, and if they do it for the 4th year, I'm going to lose a lot of respect for them. Nothing like it. It's been unpredictable. It's been exciting. It's brought baseball to the top. Right now, everyone's talking about the World Series. You have East Coast, West Coast. You have Canada, USA. It's a golden opportunity. And the Giants aren't part of it. And I think, the one thing about the Giants that we're still not talking about, since the third wild card, we still haven't made it as a third wild card.
No.
I'm sick and tired of us saying, oh, we're good enough to have the third wild card. No, we got to stop talking. We got to knock off the Dodgers. It's amazing. Nobody talks about the Padres, how that's their goal. We want to win the division. We're going to make the playoffs with our talent. That's good enough. And they have a GM that goes for it. They have fans that pack the place. The Giants, it's still all about the stadium and the food. It's not the product that we're seeing. And, as Glenn brought up, the Giants are trying something. And Marty, I just wanted to ask you, have you ever seen it where they're doing sort of the opposite way? They're bringing like a coach who's never done it and then bringing managers as a supporting cast. It's the complete 360. I've never seen it before. Now, again, it might work, it might not, but we're bringing a rah-rah cheerleader in. How is it going to survive if the Giants start off rough? Or maybe they have that thing where they go on a 1-12 homestand,
Well, it's more than a 1-year deal. I will say this, and it's the player. You guys nailed it. It's the players. Mm-hmm. And as exciting as this story will be every night, because Vitello will make it an exciting story. He will. He'll be a good communicator. It'll be fun to ask him questions and second guess. But will be the players that they pick up over the winter to make this team better. By the way, in 21, everything went well. And don't forget, Belt, Crawford, and Posey,
career years,
had Hall of Fame kind of season.
Career years, yeah.
And Gosman as well. And they had a bullpen. They put it together. You don't win 107 games by accident. And that was a solid season. So if he's got a great bench and he can push the buttons and platoon certain guys and go to the bench when he's got to do it, and if they deliver, and if he's got the two lefties in the bullpen and he's got Walker and he's got Rodriguez, who we hope. Well, Rodriguez out for the year, though, right?
Yeah, he's out for the whole year.
Yeah, I don't know who they're going to have as a closer. Kenley Jansen, Sanchez, Suarez. Yeah. So you don't know what's going to happen, but it will be interesting, and I think that's the key to the whole thing. They had to get a manager. All right, they got a manager. Now let's see what happens, and let's see who they surround them with, and we'll go from there. But you're right, Lou. This World Series, the way we started this discussion, this is fun. This World Series is fun. Toronto made it fun. George Springer made it fun. If we were doing a preview of Seattle and the Dodgers, might as well be selling, grass or flowers. Honestly, we got a series to talk about here. Seattle, thank God, George Springer knocked it out. Thank God he put Toronto in, because we could talk about all these things about the Blue Jays, because they have a chance.
They do
have a chance. Why not? Why not?
Hey, let's talk about this then, since we're back to the World Series. Who takes the series, Glenn?
What is your predictions?
Yeah, buddy.
Ready for you. I can't believe. See, Marty, this is my first time dueling it out here with Marty. I enjoy having him on the show. This is kind of nice to have him join us for change, and he knows the guys I went to school with in high school. Guys who were selling grass. Guys in Nova Scotia only knew about that. This series, Eric. Boy, I wish you had let me go last so I could kind of put a little bit of everybody into the mix.
There's no wrong answer here.
There is no wrong answer.
So who knows, Eric? I could give you so many different. I'm hoping the Toronto Blue Jays win. I think that, again, I mentioned everything I mentioned off the top of the show. I think they've got to get to the starting pitching. And I, like Marty said to my comment, is it going to be every game? Boy, look at the lineup of starting pitching the Dodgers have. But you've got to do your best to get runs early. Put the pressure on them, because they're the team with the experience. So you got to play loosey-goosey. You got to just, balls to the wall, get runs early. And the one thing I think that will be in the advantage, you're going to get pitching from the Dodgers. I think, and I got my props, Eric. I'm put the fireman. We need the fireman, Eric. It's got to be a duel. You got to get great pitching from the Blue Jays to shut down the Dodgers hitting because I think the Dodgers pitching will take care of the Toronto Blue Jays hitting. It's all to me about the pitching on both sides of the ledger, especially the Toronto Blue Jays. And as Marty said earlier, and I hate, to keep throwing it back to him, but he said, how many moves will the manager make? He's got to handle the bullpen well.
So who's going to win it? Let's hear it. Come on, man!
I was giving you my political answer there. I thought I didn't answer it, but you caught
you ain't getting that past me, man. Come on.
Toronto Blue Jays win in 6 games. That's with my heart.
I like it.
The Dodgers win in 5 with my noggin.
I'm going to say Toronto Blue Jays in 7.
Ooh.
Toronto Blue Jays in 7. Lou, what did you got?
I'll even go a little bit farther. I think this is going to be very memorable. I'm going to pick Toronto in 6, and the MVP of the series is my man, Mr. Kirk, who's going to come up with 2 big bombs. 2 big bombs, and what's going to happen is the Dodgers thought they had the best, and boy, they're going to go crazy, and they're going to pick up Tucker, and they'll pick up somebody else, and the Giants are now going to take 2 steps farther back because they didn't win it. And remember, the Dodgers, it's all about the ring or not. So, but I'm hoping it's going to be exciting. It's going to be crazy, and I can't root for LA. Got to beat LA, and let's do it.
There you go, Marty. What you got?
All right. Well, I love the baseball. I love the history of the game, and in 1954, Cleveland Indians won 111 games and went in against the New York Giants, and nobody gave the Giants a chance at all. Cleveland had this great pitching. They had all the players. Willie Mays made a great catch in game 1. Dusty Rhodes was a great pinch hitter, had all these home runs, and the Giants ended up sweeping Cleveland. So it can happen in a World Series. It can happen. And they're just baseball games. This one, for me, I know we all want to root for Toronto. And I think rooting for Toronto is the way to go in this thing. But I think when it's all said and done, the pitching of the Dodgers will prevail. I think when it's all said and done, I think the Dodgers prevail. And I say Brooklyn wins in 6.
Brooklyn wins in 6. Nice. All right, Glenn, any final thoughts?
I think the most important thing is, like you and I say almost every night, Eric, enjoy the game. It's all about enjoying, sit back, enjoy the ball game. And that's why even if the Dodgers, I think Marty's the only smart one here. Jays in 6, Jays in 6, Jays in 7, LA in 6. I think Marty's the only guy who would be good to take to Vegas with me because I can't hang around with Eric and Lou because this is not a winning combination. But they've got the pitching in LA, so let's just hope I hope it's competitive. Each and every game and something to cheer for. We saw a few of those in the Seattle series and a few throughout this postseason that even though I didn't have any skin in the game, not a fan of either team here and there, at least I was glued to the TV. I mean, the Blue Jays, or not the Jays, the game that went 15 innings.
Oh, my gosh.
That was fantastic. You had to watch how are they managing that. They were bringing in starting pitchers, and I mean they were ready to get peanut vendors in to pinch hit. It was crazy. So I just hope it's an exciting series. How about you, Lou?
I'm the same way. I think this baseball playoffs have been phenomenal. So I'm expecting this World Series to top that. They've had their little visions. I thought they had the 15-inning game early. The dramatic game Toronto last time. Let's go 7. Let's do it next weekend where we're going, oh my God, can you guys believe this series? Look at this. Can you believe what happened in game 2? And it's really a nice time for baseball to shine, and I just hope it does.
There you go.
Yeah, pitching and defense wins. I don't care if you play 7 games, 5 games, 3 games, or 162. Pitching and defense wins. And for some reason in these playoffs, they've been watching this for 10 years, the team that out-homers the other team wins the playoff.
Yeah.
And I'll take Brooklyn.
There you go. All right.
Eric,
hey, guys.
Eric, that's not anything far from what you've said all along.
Nope.
Pitching.
That's pitching and defense.
Defense.
I'm telling you, that will get it done.
You
All
know
right,
what?
guys.
The Blue Jays, if they're going to, if I can add something, I think
go for it.
the key to this series and having, grown up watching the Expos, they were my team as a youngster, and the Blue Jays, being a Canadian, getting to watch them on a nightly basis on TV. Don't underestimate the hometown crowd and the home field advantage at the Rogers Center, formerly the Sky Dome.
They can win tonight.
They're ruckus crowd.
Tonight. Lou, you hit it early. They can win tonight. Snell can walk the park.
Mhm.
And let's hope he does that tonight.
There we go. Guys, we will be back tonight, minus Marty. Marty won't be here, but we'll be back here doing the post game of
Marty,
game
this is
one.
the first time together. My pleasure,
Lou,
buddy.
Oh, you guys know it. This is more than a pleasure. This was a lot of fun, and we'll have to do this.
Well, you guys, you know what it's like. You sit down with Marty Lurie on a show's my first time too, Lou. I mean, I listened to Lou. I mean, I'd be listening to the radio and I'd hear, let's go to line 4, Eric at Beale Air Force Base. And I grew up with these two guys right here.
That's funny.
So this is a real pleasure for me, and we hope you'll come back soon.
No, I love it. I miss it. And, for me, it's the winter, a little bit more of a vacation time. But as things happen, I'll come on. And you guys are welcome anytime. It's Marty Lurie and Friends, so I love having you guys on. Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks, Eric. Have a good night.
Marty, I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
This is why we do this show. There's nothing better than talking baseball. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
amazing,
there's
and
no
that's what
wrong
makes
answer.
it.
There's
No
no
wrong
answer. That's the deal.
And the relationships that can be built off the game is just fantastic. Love it. All right, guys, we'll see you tonight. Go Blue Jays.
Go Jays!
Woo!
You've been watching the Fall Classic Sports Talk Live with Glenn and Eric, an in-depth review of today's World Series matchup between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers, a Northern Lights Entertainment broadcasting production.